What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham Jason Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the July 1st, 2024 edition of Raw Talk. Sam Roberts, Megan Morant open up the episode, hyping the Money in the Bank pay-per-view for this weekend before running down the biggest headlines from Monday's Raw. They replay the opening segment with Chad Gable, Jey Uso, the Wyatt Six stalking Chad Gable, which kind of led to the VHS tape later on in the show. Jey Uso, we hear from quickly backstage with Kathy Kelly. She did all the backstage interviews on the show. So it was interesting. I don't know if Jackie Redmond was on Raw last night. I don't think she was. And I think it was last week or the week before that Game 7 or the Stanley Cup, whatever the fuck it is. I don't watch hockey. I know nothing about hockey. She was at Raw when that was going on, when you think that she would either be at the game or going to cover it for another outlet or whatever. She was at Raw working. I think Jackie Redmond does great work as an interviewer, but she didn't really have to be at Raw that week. But like the one week where she didn't even really have to be on this show either. But I'm just saying, like, she wasn't on this show, or at least wasn't on Raw Talk. Maybe she was doing NHL-related stuff. I don't follow her, so I don't know. Maybe she mentioned that. But I thought it was interesting. Like, you couldn't have had her go do that stuff or going to watch it or cover it, whatever, when it was actually happening. Maybe she's there for the ceremony or whatever. I don't know, but I just thought that was interesting. So Kathy Kelly did the backstage interviews for this show. And she talked to Jey here, and Jey mentioned how he's happy to be in his first men's Money in the Bank ladder match. He says winning it will help out his career a lot, obviously. And he also talks about the Wyatt Six and says, Kathy, be careful, watch out. Did you see the girl, Chad? I was talking about her a couple weeks ago. I said to watch out. They can have their fireflies, blah, blah, blah. And I think there is something to that. I know they stalked Chad during Raw on Monday. Maybe they will ultimately feud with Chad Gable. I don't think so, though. I think Chad's headed in a different direction with the Creed brothers and feuding with Otis and the Alpha Academy, whatever. I think they're going in a different direction there. And then Jey Uso might actually be their first target. Chad Gable might be just the red herring, because Gable was in that segment, but so was Jey Uso at the beginning of Raw on Monday. And again, when the Wyatt Six debuted 2 weeks ago, Jey Uso was also involved in that main event. Gable was the one attacked, but Jey Uso was in that main event and won that main event before the Wyatt Six came out. So I know he's saying, you can keep your fireflies. They might attack him anyway, especially if Bo Dallas / Uncle Howdy's in that VHS tape talking about family and abandoning family. That's what Jey Uso did, right or wrong. He abandoned his family in the bloodline last year, faced his brother, beat his brother at WrestleMania. The Wyatt Six may not appreciate that, so just something to keep an eye out for. Back in the studio, they preview the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Sam Roberts says, talking about the Dallas Howdy VHS tape, whoever forgot about the Wyatt Six made a grave mistake, is what he says. They replay the Zoe Stark win over Dakota Kai and Ivy Nile in the triple threat match to qualify for the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. And I was not a fan of that. The match itself was fine, as you would expect from these three women, but I think Zoe Stark is good. I think she's skilled. She cut a good promo here, and I'll mention my thoughts on it afterward, but I'll just quickly say this. She mentioned that she was out there doing it on her own. She was celebrating with Shayna Baszler here. She learned from her mistakes in last year's women's Money in the Bank ladder match, coming up short in that match, and she calls herself Zoe in the Bank here. But what I was about to say was that Zoe Stark is good. She's very talented in the ring. She has no charisma, or at least very little charisma. And I think she's done well with what they've given her in the past year. And I was a big fan, not a big fan, but I was the first one to say about a year ago, like, they've been booking her well. She's won a majority of her matches, and she's been having quality matches, beat Becky Lynch at one point. She turned into Trish Stratus. None of that, and booking is really partially to blame, has really gotten her over. Dakota Kai, she's been on the main roster for a few years now, but she really hasn't had the opportunity to show what she can do on her own. And maybe that's what they're incorporating into the story. I didn't hear it myself, but I saw someone say on Twitter that they did mention during the match that Dakota Kai was online complaining about not getting opportunities. Now, that might be just part of the character stuff, but they might be incorporating that into her character, and that might be what ultimately turns her babyface, which I would love to see. We haven't seen Dakota Kai as a babyface in close to 5 years. So I feel like it would be nice to see her back in that role, feuding with Io Sky. They could use more babyfaces on Raw anyway, like meaningful babyfaces. They have Zelina Vega, who just lost on Raw. Rhea Ripley, I assume, will be back as a babyface. Becky Lynch is gone for right now. They need more women like that. And I'm not saying Dakota Kai will be on their level specifically, but she deserves a shot. She didn't get that shot here. It was Zoe Stark. Zoe Stark will be fine in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. We didn't think Dakota Kai would win anyway, but I would much rather see Dakota in there than Zoe for the second straight year when I know for a fact she ain't fucking winning. So anyway, they preview the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. They also replay the Zelina Vega, Liv Morgan Women's World Championship match with Liv Morgan retaining, of course. Sam Roberts says that Morgan just keeps on winning. They, on that same note, replay Ray beating Dominic a little bit later on in the show, also featuring involvement from Liv and Zelina at ringside. Sam says that he does not blame Liv for the loss and saying that it was a Rey Mysterio issue, or rather Dominic getting involved or whatever. He doesn't blame Liv Morgan for Dominic losing that match. It was Rey Mysterio's fault. And says that she'll fix it as she has. And I thought he might go a bit weird with it and say, she'll fix it by doing some favors for Dominic. He just said that, as she did a week or two ago, she would buy him a PS5 and some games and chicken nuggets and stuff like that. They didn't get weird with it, and they probably shouldn't. They could do that on the show itself, but having Sam Roberts talk about it would be a little weird, so I'm glad they didn't do that. They replay Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker exchanging words, and Breaker laying out Zayn not once but twice with a spear on Raw. Really, really good segment. We hear from Braun Breaker backstage afterward, and he says that Sami Zayn may have the championship advantage. He may have the hometown hero advantage. He may even have the veteran advantage. But he says that this is like no other match that Sami Zayn has had so far as the Intercontinental Champion. And it gets really intense and promises to beat him on Saturday for that Intercontinental Championship. Braun Breaker consistently, and I'm glad we got to see it on Raw this week, has been cutting the best promos of his entire career on this very show. And we haven't really been able to see a lot of that on Raw so far in the main roster, but we did last night, which I thought it was cool that we got him on Raw Talk and on Raw cutting lengthy promos, because he typically, lays someone out on Raw and it's cool, and then he goes to Raw Talk and cuts a great promo or whatever. He cut a really good promo, I thought, on Raw, held his own on the mic, in the ring with a terrific talker himself and Sami Zayn, and then also got to cut a promo here talking about what he talked about on Raw, so I thought that was really cool. Then to close out the show, they replay the Seth Rollins Judgment Day segment. They preview Damian Priest defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Seth Rollins at Money in the Bank. Also replaying the main event with Ilya Dragunov and Sheamus falling short to Drew McIntyre in a triple threat match to qualify him for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match for this weekend. And Sam Roberts says that McIntyre called the shot. He wants to not only win the briefcase, but walk out of that pay-per-view the World Heavyweight Champion, which means the fact that he called it means it's not going to happen. And now, honestly, I'm changing my pick. I thought Jey Uso might win. I'm thinking Drew's going to win, and then he will cash in, and then he's going to lose because of CM Punk. And I just don't think that's necessary. And if it leads to like an AJ Lee return, that's amazing. Like, we could get that anyway in a different capacity. I just think it'd be fucking lame to have the briefcase cashed in on that night, and then Drew also loses. And I know he's already been cashed in on once or twice. So, it is storytelling-wise, it does make sense. But at the same time, though, it's just, I don't love that. I don't really love the idea that he would be, wasting the briefcase, essentially, when it could be used for someone like a Jey Uso or a Gable or even a Knight, and even Knight wouldn't cash in. He would cash in on Logan Paul, and it's like, what's really the point? Because he already beat Logan Paul in that triple threat on SmackDown. Anyway, we'll see what happens this weekend. That was Raw Talk in a nutshell for July 1st, 2024. Good stuff here. Hearing from Braun Breaker, hearing from Zoe Stark, hearing from Jey Uso, making for a quality show here, heading into the pay-per-view this weekend. Speaking of which, I should be able to watch and review SmackDown Lowdown before the pay-per-view this weekend, and if not, might be up on Sunday or Monday, depending on how busy I am this weekend, so we'll see. But be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.